Thank you everyone for joining us this evening for the Artist Exchange, a group created by and for artists to share new work, ideas, resources, and opportunities monthly over a glass of wine or tea if you prefer. So grab your beverage and join us as we discover the work of two public artists, Vickie Jo Sowell and Daniel Galvez. I'm Shelley Rugg, the gallery coordinator at Gallery Route 1. And for our presentation this evening, we ask that you please stay muted until we ask you to unmute. For best viewing, select speaker view from the top right corner of the Zoom viewing screen. And we want you to know that we are recording today's presentation for future viewing on our website and YouTube channel. Now, please join me in welcoming our host, Pamela Blottner. She's an artist, educator, and curator who lives and works in the Bay Area. In her Berkeley studio, she creates sculptures and drawings that explore humankind's relationship, with nature, science, calamity, and healing. She has worked as a sculptor illustrator for the Houston Zoo and as an illustrator for Human Rights Watch, Physicians for Human Rights, the UC Berkeley Human Rights Center, Art for Conservation, and the Leatherback Trust. Welcome, Pamela Blottner.
Thank you. I am thrilled tonight to be able to introduce you to Vickie Jo Sowell, who have known for quite a while, and Daniel Galvez, who is new to me, a new friend. And both of them, both of their work is very strongly influenced by community, place, and social justice. So I call this episode Placemaking, which I stole from Vickie, and Placekeeping. Okay, first I'd like to introduce Vickie Jo, who began her art education in Montana before moving halfway across the country to finish up at Mills College here in California. So while this artist is mostly known for her public sculptures in urban gardens, she knows her way around wide open spaces. And she sees her most famous piece, Big Daddy's Complete Rejuvenating Community Garden, as an inspirational force for an urban resurgence in her hometown, Oakland. Thank you for being our guest, Vickie.
Thank you, dear. So I guess we can start with my first image, and I'll start talking a little bit more about myself. I moved down here in the 80s to go to school, and my husband and I bought a home in Emeryville, and then we built a studio there. Across the street was a defunct gas station that had been defunct in the 60s. Mr. Green ran it as a detailing shop. He was the neighborhood protector, but in 2000, he had passed away. His son, Anthony, burnt down the gas station. And that is a bulldozer in the center that's knocking down the last parts of the buildings that were on the site. I was on art committees for Emeryville then, and they would always say to me, what shall we put there? John Flores, the city manager, and I say, don't put a fast food restaurant. Susan Steinman, the founder of Weed, another environmental artist, had put a temporary community garden down on Peralta Street. That's what street this is on. And so I said to John Flores, let's put a community garden. He said, right away. Go ahead to the next image. He said, right away, let's do it. So he gave me $30,000, mostly paid for the fence, but this is what Big Daddy's looked like in 2010. So the lead tanks are still there, and but everything is above ground and it's all permaculture. Next image. Another thing happened in 2000. The state of California made a law where 2% of funds had to be put for art on every public building that was for a city a county, and the state. Not every city obliged, but Emeryville did. This isn't the first project I did in Emeryville. The first one was the Pickle Works gates, but I'm not showing any gates because we only have a few slides. But it's located in Emeryville on Doyle Street, and it was for an office building that used to house Del Monte Plant's offices. This is my second public art project I did for the city of Emeryville. It's a very old, built in the 50s fire station. It was pink because of a sort of a raisin stain they put in the stucco. So not only did they ask me to make the public art, they asked me to pick the colors out for it. Next photo. We're staying with fire stations. This one is in Niles Canyon. It's the theme of this one, Panorama, has to do with Charlie Chapman's first movie studios that were in Niles. Niles is part of Fremont. Next image. It's hard to see. These are intimate. You need to get up close, but it shows Charlie Chaplin's movies and the directors and all the stages they built. And this building looks old, but they gutted it, and it's a fire station. If you see the back, you can see where the fire trucks come in. And both of these fire stations wanted their history and wanted information about their community. So that's what I gave them. Next image. This image is from the third fire station I did, Always On. It's in Livermore. It's 40 feet long, made out of 1/4-inch steel that's been water cut. It's been powder baked and it's lit. Thanks to the help of Helen Holt, who is the lighting artist who helped me light this. If you ever look up in a restaurant and you see interesting, mostly paper lights, she did them. We sat in the back of this fire station on folding tables, and we wired this one summer. Next image. This is a picture of me installing with my friend Aaron. Aaron is on the left. They like it. They are thrilled. This is on all their letterhead, and they're very happy about their Always On. Oh, that's why it's called Always On. In Livermore, there's a light bulb that's been on since 1920 for 100 years, and they're very excited. So next image. This is a shade structure in Stockton. It's at the Matt Ikianoa Park. This park used to be a big broccoli field, but they mowed it up and put housing there, and then they put this park. So I decided to put beneficial flowers that would attract beneficial bugs, so they didn't have to use pesticide. I was naive, but show the next image. This is the piece. Kindly, the city put a plaque saying all that about native flowers being beneficial to attract bugs that would eat insects, and that you didn't need to use herbicide. It's made up of many, many flower parts that are baked with car enamels. Next image. Okay, so this project is in Oakland. It was a good project because it got a lot of funding from an amazing grant called the Ford Foundation grant. Just got a tiny bit of money from the city of Oakland and the state. It's called the Fruitvale Arches. Next image. In this plaza, there's actually 4 arches, and I'm not showing you the back one. If you, again, were close to it, you could see beautiful butterflies, hummingbird, and fruit that was enamel baked by the artist Deborah Loger, and it'll last forever because it's powder baked enamel on mild steel. This plaza is great because it was done in conjunction with BART, housing, and on the left side in that brick building is a dentistry for children. So it supports its community. In the housing, they have seniors, families, and young people. So it's used on Cinco de Mayo. The community really enjoys this plaza. I think it was a really good placemaking project. Next image. This is a fence that is each section here. I had to make 168 of these sections, and none of them are the same size. The railing was built by someone else, and each section is an 1/8 to 1/4 inch different. So each piece had to have its own page for dimensions and where the holes would go into it. It is in between Kaiser Permanente and the BART in Richmond on 25th. They put townhouses, next image, townhouses there. This is how the 7 pieces, there's 7 designs. They're from the 30s, sort of feeling the 30s of the jobs that Kaiser and brought to during its high. It's called Richmond Works, and so it shows people doing agriculture, people manufacturing, people refining, and just people enjoying Point Richmond. It's again 1/4 inch steel that's been aqua jet and powder baked. This is their traffic center, and it's in conjunction with BART. So again, people live here. These were made into a really affordable townhouses, and the city helped with funding for people to get into them so they could get low down payments and get into housing. So this was a nice project for the city of Richmond. Okay, next image. Oh, this is Richmond Refines It, one of the images. Next image. This is a piece I did in Emeryville with the artist M. Louise Stanley. I'm going to have you go back and forth. Can you go to the next image? On the left here is a picture of Louise. And this is how those pieces, some of them looked before they were painted. Lulu painted them. This is how they looked before when they were just cut and welded. They're 1/4 inch steel. Here's one on a hoist. Can you go back? So under the Emeryville Powell underpass, there's 11 of these. They're lit at night. Unfortunately, only one light is working right now. This summer, Lulu and I will go out and renew them, revitalize them, and there'll be new lights. Unfortunately for us, it's a great place for homeless people to live, and they've knocked the lights out under the underpass. But it's still doing good. This was a difficult project because I had to deal with Caltrans. And Caltrans makes public art, but it's a lot more bureaucracy. Okay, next 2 images. This is a piece I did with Mary White. It's in Mountain View. It has to do with Shackley, an engineer who invented the silicon for the first semiconductors. Semiconductors were what they used to wire into circuit boards for computers. Next image. So this is a picture of Mary White, myself, in NorCal Fabricators, who fabricated it for us before we took one of them to the powder bakers. Unfortunately, Cal is now, Michael Tan has retired, and so the business is no longer in business. Can you go back? So this was a little bit difficult of a project because it actually wasn't done with a kind-hearted city. It was done with a really smart developers who knew how to get every nickel out of you. But it was a challenge, but it turned out well, and they love it. So next 2. This is my backyard. I didn't get a chance to show you fences, my artwork, or any commissions I did and other smaller public art projects I've done, but I can show you what I'm really interested in. I'm interested in reclaiming abandoned and contaminated land and turning it into parks, which sadly Emeryville and many urban cities need more of. These are gates in my garden, my personal garden. Next image. So this is my last image. And this is what the community, one section of the community garden looks like in 2020. This is the last sculpture I made for it. Oh, lost the image. I'll answer your question about Mountain View. It's on San Antonio Boulevard, at the bottom of San Antonio Boulevard in Mountain View. The piece to the right is Bee Hotel, Ode to Harryfoot Flower Bee. This is a place where native bees come and lay their eggs. It really works. When we have native bees all over, we need to, we have native bees all over. And I'm just reading the announcements for my friends. We have native bees all over, and they love to live in bamboo. They lay their eggs there and they put a little paper over them. And then we get more beautiful Harryfoot bees are golden colored, and they come out. They are not honeybees. Honeybees were imported into America, but we have 100 kinds of native bees. So what I really would like is especially in Oakland and maybe other areas, to take abandoned places like gas stations and other deserted buildings and turn them into community gardens. There, thanks to Andre Singer Thompson's class, the environmental art class, there are so many people that would be willing to do these kind of projects and make public art that tells people about how to be better stewards of their environment, tells people at the Bay especially what's going to happen when the waters rise, tells people how to conserve water, tells people to take good care of the soil. That's what public art for me has to happen next. It has to be about telling people, using solar panels, electric cars. It has to talk about why we really, really need better public transportation. So I just wanted to dwell on this a little bit. You can see more pictures of Big Daddy's complete rejuvenating community garden on my website. And if you just Google the garden, this garden is in the Smithsonian's list of community gardens. So it comes up in the Smithsonian, which pleases me. And if you want to know more or see more of my images, you can go to unrulyimages.com. And I guess that's it.
Thank you very much, Vickie. I really regret that we can't see the rest of your beautiful work. We could
we'll be there the rest of the evening.
All night. Okay, but fair is fair. And I want to introduce our other wonderful artist. And he is Daniel Galvez. And as I said, I did not know him. And it seems rather strange that I didn't, considering how much work he's made and where it all is. He was raised and educated in California, and he was inspired in school by painter Wayne Thiebaud and by Los Tres Grandes, who have been called the fathers of Mexican murals: Diego Rivera, David Alfaro Siqueiros, and Jose Clemente Orozco. To my mind, these influences, amongst many other things, account for the power and at the same time, as you'll see, the lusciousness of Daniel's work. And let's see. Oh, I should also add that his own heritage, Mexican heritage, is very important and finds its way into his work. So thank you so much for joining us, Daniel. Are you ready?
Okay, thank you. Nice introduction. Okay, I just want to talk a little bit before I start showing my images to give you an idea what led me to this path of the work that I do. There were two major influences, which was the photorealists that I had saw in the early 70s and 80s. Just amazing, the beauty, the talent, the realism that just drew you in. I just love those guys, Chuck Close and Robert Bechtel and Dick McLean. But Wayne Thiebaud rings a bell in my heart, because that gentleman, I saw his work when I was 14 at the Crocker Art Museum and Gallery in Sacramento, where I grew up. And it just amazed me. I mean, his painting, his colors, the richness. I mean, I was sold on painting by the time I got to college. The other factor that I liked immensely about the Los Tres Grandes was that their work was just amazing, because they were large, they were massive, they told stories, they let people know where the roots were. And so I found that concept, and they were for free. You know, I like the concept that you can just walk anywhere and then see beautiful murals at any time of the day. So that's what I wanted to do. You know, I wanted to study, to paint as best I could, and then transfer that type of imagery to large scale, massive monumental art that could tell you something about the area, the people who live there, the establishment that is there, because the murals were all different types of commissions from different organizations. Okay, well, so I'm going to show you my first few paintings that I was really into. This is a portrait of a young girl who was the daughter of my landlord, and he had two daughters, and I did one of each because it was a time in college where I was so short of money. I needed an exchange, and I said, if I paint your two daughters, you know, could give me a few months rent off. And he went for it immediately. So this was one of the results. Next image. So I wanted to keep pushing my realism. This was a black and white, based on a black and white portrait, and I wanted to see if I could handle that aspect of realism. So these are a couple of homeboys in the mission. This painting, everything is a painting here, was 40 inches tall and then 30 inches wide. A nice scale. Okay, next image. I'm pushing things even more. This is a painting for a show at the Galeria de la Raza, which was in the Mission. This was going to be used on their outside billboard. This was Sal Garcia, local artist in the Mission, and this painting was 3 4x8 panels put in a row, so it's a 8-foot by 12-foot painting. Okay, so next slide. So murals were what I wanted to do. So the first year after graduating from California College of Arts and Crafts, I got a job through Berkeley, City of Berkeley, the CEDAR program, which gave art for work for artists, and I was making a whole $3.50 an hour, but I didn't care. I was being paid to paint. So my first mural. So I really wanted to share with the neighborhood, with the community, my roots and my culture and highlights of being a Mexican American. But I also wanted to bring in the realism that I learned. And I love Torkelson. This particular artist would always paint these huge, gigantic, beautiful, detailed diesel trucks. So beautiful, the chrome so shiny, you know. So I wanted this truck to look so real that it could just pull off the vacant lot. And on it was a mural that was meant to be shared with the community at large. I have Diego Rivera on a ladder working in the mural. I've got all of my assistants, a young woman that helped me painting the tires on the back of the truck, and 2 other guys, local Berkeley artists, O'Brien Teal and Ocean Newman, are in this mural as well. Painted in 1976. Okay, next slide. So I wanted to take it even further, had another job through the California Arts Council So again, I was being paid to paint murals. So this time I wanted to do a mural all about Oakland residents. I lived in Oakland. So I photographed all kinds of people that I saw. The woman in the center was actually my daughter's second grade elementary school teacher. That was one of her students. The guy with the welder was actually my landlord. He wound up in this mural. So these figures were 19 feet tall and ran the length of this alley called Cahn's Alley, which was an alley that we went from Broadway to, excuse me, straight back to that area that's the beginning of the area in front of City Hall. So it was right downtown in the middle of Oakland. So next slide. So this wall was like a dream wall. After that mural that I did in Oakland with the people's portrait, it was called Oakland's Portrait, the Mural Resource Center in San Francisco asked me if I wanted to put a mural on this wall. And I said, hey, yeah, of course. You know, I'm a youngster, ready to go. And not a lot of money, but I didn't care. It was $15,000. This was in 1983. So I really wanted this mural to fit into this neighborhood in the Mission in San Francisco. It was this wall, the apartment building right behind the House of Breaks, 24th Street in South Van Ness. It had a multitude of beautifully colored buildings. There were all kinds of stores, local stores, grocery stores on the streets. And I wanted to use a theme that was also relevant to the area, which was the Carnival. And the Carnival parade just started happening like a few years before I painted this. So I found a local photographer and I worked off of his images of participants that were in the parade. So I combined kind of the block feeling of 24th Street and then capturing this great event. And also this building was so blah, square and everything like that, and very, very just simple windows, nothing exciting about this. So I wanted to transform that idea too as well. I wanted to control what the building looked like or felt like while introducing the whole community to a very special event in their neighborhood. Next slide. And it came out like this. It was called the Carnival Mural. I had four helpers. We worked off swing stages being pulled from the top. I added extra wood to the building to accentuate its three-dimensionality, its realism, the middle center with the banner and the two figures at the window. If you look at the very top, there's the corners are extended. I wanted the building to look real, like that was really a separate building, and it was not, it was just square. The same with the building on the right. I put on the extra cornices at the top to appearance of the building is different from the one next to it. So I really wanted to kind of trick the eye in that sense. And at the same time, even the figures, I wanted them to jump forward as massive as I could. So across the bottom window, light well between underneath the arm of the main figure, I cut across the window with a cutout of wood and painted it realistically so she could appear moving in front of it. And this is so well received that towards the latter 90s, well, it's 83, 90, by the time we were in 10 years back, it was pretty demolished. The fading had happened, flaking had occurred. So this is a newly restored version where the community grant that I received, along with 25% contributions from the community, which added up to 70,000 to restore the mural back to its original beauty. And the neighborhood, the community loves it and calls it kind of like the mission icon of 24th Street. Okay, next image. On this side of the bay in Oakland, I had another grant arts commission. So I painted a large mural with a collaborating artist on the freeway underpass, 580 freeway underpass on Grand Avenue. This is called a small detail section of Grand Performance. This mural runs the entire width of the freeway. And it was really just a celebration and a joy and a gift to the neighborhood of the arts and their contributions to Oakland. So we found local artists in the area that we wanted to include. We found we knew the San Francisco Mime Troupe performed in the park right across the street from there. This is near the Grand Lake Theater, just to give you an idea. You might even pass by it. This was painted in 1985. So even down below, you can see Lake Merritt and Oakland, and then San Francisco in the distance. That mixed placement shows you where you're at. And then all the performing artists and individuals in the mural were creative people that worked in Oakland or San Francisco. The ribbon dancer, the Cambodian ribbon dancer from a dancing troupe in Oakland, the Oakland Ensemble Theater. Those are the three African-American artists up to the left. The pianist in the foreground was Mary Watkins. And so if you look throughout the mural, you begin to realize all these people, have been living and performing and creating art for you. Next image. This one is a little fuzzy. It's the only image I could had it finally from an old slide. This is a mural painted in 1990. I was invited by the city of Pittsfield, cultural affairs director there, to paint a mural on the side of the Vietnam veterans headquarters. And they wanted a mural on the side of their building. They wanted to honor not only their fallen comrades, but the missing in action. So this was the Berkshire chapter of the Vietnam vets, and all the photographs falling out of the helicopters, because at the time in Vietnam, they said that the Viet Cong would always drop out flyers all the time saying, give up, you don't have a chance, this is it, you're gonna die. So we just flipped that concept around, and all these photographs of falling from helicopters are actual portraits of the Berkshire County missing in action soldiers and sailors and nurses that didn't return, and they're still missing in action. So this mural is entitled Lest We Forget. And as you can see, I wanted to take that wooden concept idea as well too, addition. So the soldiers on the left are scrambling to get back into their, this was actually taken from a boat trying to get back in for safety while they're facing Agent Orange above them. I used the cutouts in front of this fire escape in the front to cover those stairs. So I have a Vietnamese figure, a Vietnam woman running in fear, two comrades helping another. They were real adamant that we, at the veterans, when we talked with them about not showing violence, really. They didn't want to see blood, dying, death. They wanted to show what it felt like and describe it to the world, what it was like to be where they were at that time. So this was called Lest We Forget. Next mural. Then later I was invited to Cambridge, Massachusetts, to do a mural on this building, which was a nightclub that was actually, had tons of music throughout from all genres, punk, rock. The owners are the three figures at the top with the girl. There were these two Lebanese brothers that were just sweethearts. That's one of their sisters. So I was allowed to do whatever I wanted. So this mural actually, the building actually stops at that purple line, horizontal line, right where the two little kids are sitting on. That's the top of the building, just a straight cut across. And then towards the right, where you see the little punk guy in the doorway, that whole area there was boarded up windows, so I was allowed to cover that. And surprisingly, originally, they gave me only that little section, this little next to the punk in front of him, that little square in front, that little dark line that cuts across, just that little area there. And I said, that was too small. Can I make it bigger? So this was the end result of that event. This was in Cambridge, in Central Square on Mass Ave. Seen by many, loved by many, and was never tagged. Maybe a couple of black little markers on the bottom with somebody's name, but this mural was really well received. And it too went through a lot of destruction over time, just the weather elements. So some of the wood was, flaking, and some of the paint was altered a little over here. So it got a total rehab. The Lebanese family brought me out. They fed me all the food I could eat, which was crazy, or any kind of music I wanted to hear. And I restored the mural. So it's back to looking good. Next image. Now here's the joy of my life. The New York Arts Commission held a artist call for artists to work on putting art into the restored Audubon Ballroom in New York City. That was a site where Malcolm X had been killed. So they were restoring part of the building and then demolishing the rest. But this was the actual lobby where Malcolm X was assassinated. So I did a maquette for this, which I spent months working on, because this was, I thought vitally important to make a piece about Malcolm X's life, and I wanted to get it right. I reread his autobiography. I looked at Malcolm X films. There were several films that come out. I saw old television newsreels on him speaking. I went through tons of books studying all these photographs. So I really wanted to tell the story of Malcolm X from being a child to a teenager to being in prison and being the main speaker of the Nation of Islam and the rest of his life. Next image, just to give you some more closer detail. This was the left-hand side. And nobody hardly ever catches this, but I began this drawing this concept with just the wall drawn out and just a big X right down the middle. That was the composition. That was my foundation to create the mural and hold the images together. And that was what I learned from Los Tres Grandes, from Diego Rivera, Siqueiros. They looked at a wall and treated it like it was an environment. They wanted to control your eyes. They wanted to break up the building, either work with the architecture or destroy the architecture. It was just fascinating how their approach to mural making was so important and so critical and so detailed. So that was the beginning, just the X. And then I started putting my images together to tell his story. The top very yellow, really pale scene. Well, actually, let me just first tell you, the whole mural was first painted in black and white. It's a 12-foot high mural by 67 feet wide canvas mural. I did the entire painting. I had a fantastic assistant, Josh Sanchez, another well-known artist in the Bay Area. We painted all in black and white first, and then I glazed certain areas and added color to certain areas and left some of the areas black and white. I wanted the fluctuation between past historical scenes. I mean, a lot of people saw these on television, black and white television. So I wanted to kind of emphasize that aspect of it, as well as give you the feel of the times. So the top yellow part is the negative aspect that was occurring then during civil rights times. Water cannon was being attacked by dogs. There was a scene where the Nation of Islam guys were killed on the streets. So that was the real negative part that I wanted, that existed in the life of Malcolm X. Even his bad times, that person, jailed figure up there is himself. He was jailed as well when he was a teenager for burglary and stuff. I wasn't going to hold anything back, but he was also a regular teenager. He liked to dance. I have him showing dancing. He was a good student in school, studying down on the left. And in reality too, his childhood home was firebombed. That's shown in the far left-hand side. So his whole life was really going to be in this mural, along with his words. His words were all his real concentrated, kind of severe aspect of race relationship was on the first beginning of the mural. And as it leads towards the end, it's more uplifting. He speaks more about cooperation, living with black and whites. Anyway, it's just fascinating to read his life and see him change. Let's look at the right-hand side. So it shows them, so I included all kinds of aspects of his life. That's his family. That's his wife up there with his 3 daughters. She was pregnant at the time when he was killed with the 4th daughter. That's Malcolm X selling a newspaper on the street. The people that listened to him. That's the amphitheater up at the left-hand side was I can't remember that particular organization, Organization of Nations. Anyway, he spoke there and was well received. This was in Africa. And his dream later was to speak at the United Nations, and that's reflected there because he really wanted to push this new relationships about racial inclusion that he wanted to do. In fact, when he went to Africa, he's shown there in his doing his. Every Muslim would have to go there to do their Hajj, and so he's in full outfit. The story of Malcolm X. It's called Homage to Malcolm X. Next image. The Department of Interior in the headquarters in Washington, D.C., they wanted to celebrate their 150th anniversary. They had a competition for artists throughout the nation to submit design. Well, first you submit your art, and then if you made the short list, then you got to make a design. So I made a design. We wanted 2 companion murals for the headquarters, and there's actually 2. They face each other, and it spoke about the Department of Interior. They have 9 different bureaus, I believe. Bureau of Indian Affairs, bureau that took care of Endangered Species Act. They're the ones that took care of the rivers, keep the streams clean, and then making maps, keeping the forests, bright, taking care of. It was just be a reflection about what all of the different things the department did. And so it's there now, and it's in a place where the building is known to have the most murals of any federal building in the United States. Okay, next image. So the previous Malcolm X mural was my highlight, and I call this my most difficult piece I ever was asked to do a mural for. This was commissioned through the Washington State Arts Commission. They gave me a call. I want to know if I was interested in taking on a project that was going to be for a new, it's not a prison, it's a commitment center. This was a commission for the Special Commitment Center for the Rehabilitation of Sex Offenders. It was going to be on an island, on McNeil Island off of Tacoma, newly built, and it was to house prisoners that had originally fulfilled their prison stay, their commitment to be how long they had to stay. But the guys that really didn't have it quite together again and weren't really clear that they could be let free and not be an offender anymore, so they had to go to the Special Commitment Center where they were to be rehabilitated. I mean, they're not even called prisoners, they're called residents. And the old term of the warden and stuff, that's gone. They were more like the administration. So this was going to be in their main assembly hall where they would meet with the families or they would meet with their lawyers. And so before I could put pencil to paper, I needed to think about how do rapists and child molesters think? Why did they get in there? Why? So I had to get books from university. My wife's a librarian, so she could only get special, so I can get books that aren't in the public. I mean, you don't start looking at books on rape in the public library. So I read about, the rehabilitation of the offenders, and it told me a lot and explained to me a lot. So I wanted to do a mural that was going to try to help these guys realize what they've done, how they've lived, what they can be if they rework their thoughts, rework themselves, rehabilitate themselves. So let's go through the mural. I'll show you the first half. Next image. So this shows, men on the left, any kind of man. There was a woman. They could be your neighbor, your doctor, they could be disabled. Anybody could be an offender. So I wanted to represent that. I want to represent the next section where they're learning things. While they're there, they're learning carpentry or cooking or landscaping. They'd always have to get in line to go to get food. Anyway, just what it was like to be in the facility. They don't call it a prison. The guys behind, and funny because normally I invite artists and people, my friends, to be in my murals, and they're on it like that. But I could barely get anybody to want to pose for my mural that goes into a sex offenders building. So a lot of these guys are artists, and a lot of these guys I had to use myself 3 times in the mural. I even have my brothers in there. They're the guys behind the fence, with the fingers crushed up there. It's my 2 brothers-in-law, and the center goes my brother. The top guy in the red shirt is Horace Washington, really well-known artist in the Bay Area. I had a place where I went to have breakfast and stuff. He's in there. He's in the shop cutting away. So it was set. So it meant to show as we move on that they're meant to reevaluate where they're going or how they can get out. So and sometimes they'll fall when they get outside. They'll reoffend. That's the guy who's falling, and that's meant to also show that there's also people to help him. So they're needing somebody. There's always help if they start to reoffend or thinking about reoffending. And just to tell you, I had to use myself many times. So this one mural alone, I'm catching the guy. I'm the guy in the red shirt, and I'm the guy in the green shirt back there. Anyway, so I had a lot of, okay, next slide. Next image, please. Okay, this is the right-hand side. So here's where they can kind of reevaluate themselves after they come out. If they do well, they can go back to night school. They can learn something new. They can learn a new trade. If you're a welder, you can get back to work, a carpenter, or if you're a fisherman. So I kind of showed the life that they could do if they came out. And then also to kind of show the relationship, you know, you should have with women, how you have with children and young women. So I have another two friends of mine, they're posing as the contented couple, how you relate to each other. That's Robin Henderson on the left, Josh Sanchez on the right. And then the woman holding the baby, you know, again, it was meant to show, you know, this is how you treat children. This is how you care. This is a loving relationship, how you treat each other. And then the last up towards the right-hand corner is the older couple, you know, and if all goes well, you live happily with your mate with a walk through the sunset, you know. So that was the mural that I did for them. That one was 10 feet high and it ran 55 feet wide, painted in my studio here. Next image. Okay, we're getting towards the end. This is a mural I painted in my studio. I painted them all in my studio practically. This is for McClymonds High School. The Oakland Unified School District had extra funding for the renovation of a lot of the different high schools, but this particular head librarian, pushed enough to the side for a mural and gave them a really discount. I didn't really think they're going to have the money, but they did. So I wound up painting this mural. But I just went all out and worked on it for 6 months, and I used the same process I used for the Malcolm X mural, totally in black and white first. And I wanted to show the murals. I had a session with the arts class there to feed into their brain. Tell me, what do you guys dig? What do you enjoy about life? Or what do you want to do when you grow up? So they told me they want, you know, to represent a lot of their life through the mural with just reminding people about that they are African Americans. There is a pride in history because they wanted the Black Panthers in there. The Black Panthers met at DeFremery Park, which is that house up there, which is near the school. So the center section is going to have alumni as well as important people in the neighborhood. So you'll see Obama putting President Obama putting the Medal of Honor on. Oh my God, what is that guy's name? Bill Russell. My wife always helps me out. Bill Russell's in the center. Jackie Robinson graduated from there. He's in there, and then Malcolm X over there. And also, I wanted to represent the kids there, and it's basically 92% African American. Also, they had like a 5% of Muslims were going there. So I wanted to show all the kinds of kids that were there and some others, but that was the main focus. So I've got and all the figures are engaged. The students are engaged in activities, and then I'll show you how I transform, keeping some of the black and white and some of the color. So here's a mural installed in the library. So again, I emphasize the black and white so you can focus on the diamond area in the center. The young student in the center is working on her laptop. Simultaneously, she has two monitors in front of her, talking about different things. Black Lives Matter event is happening in one of them. The great mathematician, Kathleen Johnson, maybe worked with the NASA as one of the mathematicians that told where the astronauts were going to land. This is a really long time ago. So she's seeing something about her own life, and then right behind her laptop, while she's studying a mathematical problem, or books, the library, again with topics like English and history and art history. So the black and white sections are all the kids doing different activities that to engage them and what they do. And this particular banner that you see now is quotes I got from the class, one of the English classes. The kids were writing haikus on what they want to do when they leave, or what does education mean to you. So those quotes are on the wall. Okay, one last slide, I believe. And just to tell you that murals aren't always on canvas or on fresco like a Diego Rivera mural. This was at Skyline College up in Skyline College. San Bruno. And we did this also with tile, handmade glazed tile, and etched metal that shows all the different students, all different doing activities and what they do there. So this was done 10 years ago, and you think murals that are on steel and ceramics are going to be there forever. Well, some of the tiles fell off, water seepage, so that one had to be repaired. So so that winds it up. That's my life as a public work artist. Yep.
All right, thank you, Daniel. That was amazing, and we're running a little late, but at this point, we'd love to open up the floor to our audience. If you want to ask any questions, now's your chance. You can raise your hand, or you can just unmute yourself and start speaking.
Hello.
Diana, did you want to speak?
Yes, I was interested in knowing who takes care of the parks that that Vickie Jo works on.
I'm the boss.
How often do you have to visit the parks? I mean, it's
I
sort
live
of.
across the street and the other one's behind my house.
Oh, okay.
I see him a lot. But I'll be there this Saturday pruning all the trees.
All right, this is a real job.
It's a real job. I got the apricot done. Now I have to work on the plums.
All right. I'll invite you to my garden soon.
Yeah, I know. Then you know how it is.
I have a question. Oh, wait, let's see. We have me.
Hey, yeah, may I?
Yeah.
Vickie, I'm the other day I walked down San Pablo Avenue, and there are these empty lots in front of the Oakland Library.
Wow.
I would be very interested in doing something there. So if we could investigate.
Well, find out who the city council person is.
Yeah.
Who
There's
takes
two,
care.
there's two big empty lots rightly facing, and they're big, and they have some interesting growth on it, and they could be perfect for,
I think they would love that, but find out who your city council person is and look into Oakland community grants.
Okay, we'll do.
And those are the two things, because they could give you money. Those
Mhm,
grants are easy to get
mhm.
and no one knows about them. But they're not that large. It could be about 10,000, but for a garden, that could do it.
That could be totally fine. Yeah, I think
if
it's
you-
just to know who owns them,
No, well, you can look that up, but if you get your city council person with you and they're on your side,
Mhm.
they can help you. I was lucky the people in Emeryville were wanting this done
Yeah.
and they were on my side. So that land where my community garden is owned by a gentleman who's I'm surprised he's still alive. So I think his son probably took over. His name, Mr. Moss. He lives in Crockett. There are billboard signs on that property, only freeway billboard signs left.
Mhm.
And Emeryville wanted them kicked out, but they let those freeway signs exist, and that's what gives the money.
Okay.
That piece of land is contaminated because it has the leaded gas tanks there. So they'd have to clean it up to do that. And that Mr. Moses charged the city of Emeryville $250 for every 3 years. And they tell me he doesn't even cash the checks. So, and that they don't have to pay taxes on that little piece of land.
Okay, all right.
That's my rent for that land. But
Mhm.
we have to pay for our water.
Okay.
And we get free compost from Waste Management.
Okay, great. I'll look into it.
Hey, I have a question. So how lucrative is public art for artists?
Not.
It can go up and down. It can go up and down. They can be substantial when you have a city behind it with their Art Percent program. I've done work for the city of Danville for $250,000 to do 4 freeway walls in Dan. What? Oh, excuse me, Dublin. See, got the whole Barry. The larger commissions, like the one for the Department of Interior, they can be massive. You can get a lot of government projects for courtrooms, for colleges, and the Department of Interior was 175,000, but most range around 100,000. And then if you feel like really being a generous guy, I did the Oakland High School mural McClymonds for 20,000 because
Right.
my wife was a librarian. I loved her. I love libraries. That's where I would go to begin any mural, was at the library. Now it's at the computer, but then it was at the library.
You know, $20,000 can sound like a lot of money, but that includes all the expenses.
Yes, the canvas, the paint, the time. In fact, I didn't care about the hourly rate. I worked on it for 6 months till I got it just right. And then I had to pay $2,500 for an installer to put it up. So, but that one was a pure project of love. But it's a difficult life. You have to really hustle. I used to write a lot of my own grants. So you can do it if you want to really, break your teeth in public art. As Vickie says, you can apply for those community grants. And I applied for those many times, mostly just to cover the materials, but to get massive murals done so I can move to the next step. So if you're just getting rolling, it's a good place. Or if you want to do a garden, as Vickie Jo has explained, there's a process and money that supports it. I can't support it.
And then the more you do public art, the more you know how to bid it. You know how much things will cost.
Correct. Yeah.
And
Right, you have to keep your eye on that budget.
right.
Yeah, exactly.
Stephen.
Yeah, I'd just like to know your experience with vandalism on those murals. Do people respect those things?
Well, the way to have a successful mural is to make the mural be about the community, about who lives there, what it's about. The Grand Performance mural, which is on that freeway underpasses, has never been tagged. It's all about Oakland. Other murals that kind of like plop in there and have a theme, or nobody knows why it came up there, or those are the ones that usually get tagged first. Sometimes they can be so beautiful, they won't get tagged, but sometimes things can change. Like these beautiful freeway murals on 580 near San Pablo were just gorgeous murals, 3 of them, but there was a lot of homeless encampments came in. Kids started trashing the area, and then some of the murals started getting vandalized. So it's a matter of circumstances. If a successful mural will highlight that area, and they usually do fine. It's just mostly the weather is the killer that will degrade and bring the mural down. But graffiti will always be a problem, especially if you live like in a real neighborhood that's full of maybe youthful gangs that like to make their turf, mark their turf. They'll hit murals in a blink of an eye. And or if they see a mural falling apart and deteriorating, it's almost an invitation to be graffitied. But generally, it's always a tough call. The graffiti artist wants to make their statement, but we always say, why don't you choose a blank wall? But it does happen. And most murals are coated with a heavy graffiti coating now that you can actually use solvents and take the graffiti off. So you can protect yourself by adding 3 coats of not only a UV protected varnish, but one that you can actually take the material off with either a solvent. Most often it's a solvent that's made for that particular wall, or even a real high-end methylene, toluene. There's some powerful chemical that will take them off as long as the mural has been coated to protect the mural underneath. So you always come with a coating.
And I've been really lucky. No, people don't usually tag public art. I've been really lucky.
All right. Well, Pamela, would you like to move to the artist resources portion of our evening?
Yes, I would. And I do want to reflect that back on Vickie. If you have any other resources to tell us about, I know you're an absolute encyclopedia, and anyone else who can contribute anything. I myself do not have a resource handy, but I will tell you that next week next month, we will have a pair of photographers. One is someone who is new to us and new to me, Neo Seraphimidis. And he lives in Albany, California. And I am trying very, very hard to get our own Elizabeth Fenwick to be on that program as well.
Nice.
Yeah, I hope so. And it is lovely to see so many friends, to see Andre, to see Prabha, who I haven't seen in a million years, to see Joki. I will email you the links, and to see Sally, to see Mary, to see Gayan, Achana, and let's see, Stephen. And if I missed anyone, I still am really happy to see you.
Well, Pamela, I have something to share. We have a workshop, part of our professional development series coming up next month, and I'm going to post a link to register for that event in the chat. It's a grant writing workshop for artists, and you can follow that link if you would like to get tickets and register.
Shelley will be teaching this.
Yes, that'll be me. And also we still are looking for new artist members at Gallery Route 1. And so I will pop a link to find out about that in the chat as well. And that's what I have to offer tonight.
Oh, one last thing, if you would like to appear on Artist Exchange, or you can think of someone who you really like to hear from, please let us know. You can certainly contact us at Gallery Route 1, or you can contact me personally, Pamela Blottner at gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you.
Pamela, I need to leave, but I would like to, I put into the chat, but I would like to tell everybody that the Laney College Eco Art Matters class starts this week, and it's on Tuesdays. And I just retired, so Minush Zomorodinia is going to take my place. So she will be team teaching with Sharon Siskin, and they have a lineup of incredibly wonderful speakers. So for those of you who are interested in the kind of work we have seen tonight, this is a class where it is inspirational with inspirational speakers. And I just wanted to thank both Vickie and Daniel. The work was fantastic. I had not seen a lot of your work, Daniel, and it was just incredible.
Oh,
so thank you, Pamela, for organizing this.
My pleasure, and thank you, Shelley, for making it all possible.
Yeah, happy to do it. Well, I'm going to pop one last thing into the chat, and that is a link so that if you were moved by today's presentation and want to support the work that Gallery Route 1 does to inspire people to experience the world in new ways, then click on the link in the chat. And when you follow the link, you'll select community outreach donations and then artist exchange. And thanks again, everyone, for coming. And we hope to see you at our next artist exchange on February 16th. Thanks again, Pamela, Vickie Jo, and Daniel, and all of you for showing up.
Yes, all of our guests. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wonderful presentations. Thank you.
Thank you. Amazing presentations, beautiful artwork, so full of joy. Ah.
Thank you.